Hi, welcome to the Voice Unearthed YouTube channel. My name is Dori Holte, also known as Dori, and I am mom to an 18-year-old boy named Eli who stutters. I need to start this out by explaining that I am not a speech therapist. I'm a person who did about 6 years of research and writing, published my book, Voice Unearthed, Hope, Help, and a Wake-Up Call for the Parents of Children Who Stutter in 2011. This first video will give a kind of an overview of our journey and what we discovered throughout that process. And future videos will focus on specific areas of interest to parents with children who stutter and to speech therapists. Eli started to stutter when he was about 2.5. And when I say stutter, I mean he started showing speech tension, which is the term I often use instead of stuttering, because stuttering is defined in different ways, and there's even disagreement as to what really constitutes stuttering. He started out with speech tension. He opened his mouth and nothing came out. So from the time he was 3 until he was 9, we saw quite a few speech therapists. Initially, before he was 5, the therapy was indirect. They would work with me or with him to slow down the speaking, kind of play therapy. I was, instructed to slow down my speaking and to make good eye contact and to give him time to talk and that sort of thing. When he was 5, they told us that chances were at this stage he was not going to get beyond it, that he would continue to struggle. And this was the time to bring in the speech tools and techniques. So over the next 4 years, the primary focus of the therapy was getting Eli to use speech tools and techniques. And over that time, he went from being a mild stutterer to a moderate to a severe, which was very frustrating and very frightening to us. We couldn't understand what was going on. I observed many of his speech therapy sessions, and he was able to use the speech tools and techniques. For example, they have one called Tigger Talk, where when he would block, he was supposed to stop and kind of bounce, I think, I am going to get him through the block. Easy onset, we will do this. And slow speaking, turtle talk, they call it when you're 5. He could do it quite comfortably when he was in the clinic setting, and we were supposed to have special time at home every day. He was a bit reticent to special time. We would pull out a game. I would ask him to use his speech tools and techniques while we were playing the game. He would get upset and say, "Why can't we just play the game?" And I said, "Well, we have to keep practicing." Over the years, I did convey my concerns to a number of speech therapists, all of whom were very, very, very kind people. I won't suggest that they, did anything intentional to make his struggle, exacerbate his struggle. But I expressed my concern, and the answer was, you just need to keep practicing. He just needs to keep practicing his speech tools and techniques. And so we did. And you can read more about this in the book, but by the time Eli was 9, as I mentioned, his stutter had gone from mild to moderate to severe. And what was even worse was that he had become very, very quiet and withdrawn. He had stopped engaging or he didn't want to engage in a lot of the activities his 2 older brothers had been involved with. When he was sitting around a table with friends or family, he wouldn't talk very often at all. In fact, he didn't really initiate too much conversation. It was really painful to watch because we realized that getting him to stop stutter was far less important than keeping him talking. We were suspecting that the therapy had something to do with this. Not only was he not talking, but his struggle, his speech tension had become much more severe. And he was having what they refer to as secondary behaviors, kind of twisting his chin to his shoulder to try and get a word out, and kind of growling before that word would come out. We were suspecting at that point that maybe this therapy hadn't been such a good idea. It's very logical that if you can give them tools to help them through the block and keep their speech moving, that they will talk more. I mean, that is the intention of the therapy. What can happen though, and this is the risk I want all parents to understand and speech therapists, is that asking a child to change the way they talk, even if you tell them it's okay to stutter, but asking a child to change the way they talk and then applauding and giving them rewards and prizes when they use those tools can backfire. It can add layers and layers of fear and anxiety around their attempts to communicate. And it can also give them the impression that it really isn't okay to stutter. They will try and do everything they can to not stutter. And oftentimes, stuttering is defined as what a person does when they are trying not to stutter. So it backfired. He became very quiet. He became very fearful of communication. He communicated a lot less. He was struggling with depression. He was struggling with sleep issues. Now, I don't know that, I'm not suggesting the therapy contributed directly to that at all, but that's the way it was at the time. And we were very worried and concerned for him. When he was 9, we pulled him out of speech therapy, and we're kind of at a loss. I went to several National Stuttering Association conferences, talked to people there. My husband and I, neither one of us got the feeling that there were other options besides this focus on speech tools and speech techniques. It's referred to as stuttering modification, and it's what's considered evidence-based best practice, and it's what a licensed speech therapist is trained to do, and it's what they most often do. So we would come back from those conferences pretty befuddled. We just couldn't believe there weren't other options, other ways to tackle this problem. But within a few months of that, we were connected up with Dr. Dori Holte out of UW River Falls. I always have to preface my conversation about Jerry with, he is a character. And if any of you have met him, you'll know that. He's a quirky, passionate, kind of maverick guy when it comes to his approach to speech therapy. He agreed that the therapy that Eli had could have caused more harm than good. And he explained to us how this can add layers and layers of anxiety around communicating, and most importantly, the easiest way for a child to not stutter is to not talk. So this is not uncommon. Even when I was at the NSA conferences, many parents talked about their children not being able to use the speech tools outside of the clinic setting. It's not uncommon for a child to just resort to not talking. Dr. Halverson, his focus in therapy was simply to keep them talking and keep talking fun. At that stage of the game, we wanted that more than anything. We wanted our Eli back. We felt like we had lost at least, a big part of him. Over the next 3 years, we had a covert operation with Dr. Halverson. It turned out he has a ranch with a bunch of horses outside of River Falls, and Eli was just a horse nut at the time. So I told him that Jerry at this point was a friend of ours, and he had horses and heard Eli was interested in horses, and so we were going to go meet him. And for 3 years, we went every other week pretty much out to the ranch, and Eli would help Jerry feed the horses, pick up rocks out of the field, clean the stalls, just hang out. Jerry would do all kinds of crazy things to keep Eli talking, basically. He was modeling for us ideas and ways that we could get him talking again. In between, 1 week we'd go to the ranch, the next week we would meet him at a restaurant, my husband and I, and he would talk more to us about what he was observing with Eli and things that we could do. His focus was, as I said, it was to keep him talking. And the ways that we found with his guidance that seemed to work were just to really pay attention to the times when Eli talked the most, when he was most comfortable talking, when he enjoyed talking. Certainly in the car was an opportunity, especially if it was just him and I in the car, keep the radio off and talk. In the morning, I would be working, maybe even on a deadline, and he would come in wanting to chat right after he'd woken up. And rather than saying, honey, I'm working on a deadline, gotta go, I would stop and listen to him. It was more important than that deadline. Before bedtime, that was the time he would often talk, I suppose, to stay up later. He was a bit of a night owl, and as I said, he did have some sleep issues as a child. For Eli to have leadership opportunities, to have opportunities where he was in charge, he was the boss, to build confidence, focus on the things that he's passionate about, and keep him talking, just keep him talking. As Jerry said, his previous speech therapy kind of sucked all the fun right out of it. And I think he's right, I think it did. Even within the first 6 months or so, we could see a lot of the secondary struggle melting away. Eli still stutters. He still stutters today. He still struggles. He would probably be considered moderate to severe. But he talks and he engages and he speaks up in class. He speaks up with his friends. He oftentimes, when he gets involved in some sort of an organization, he becomes a leader. He just kind of takes on a leadership role. So he's doing very well. He's off to college and having a great time. Quite honestly, if anyone had told me when he was 9 that at 18 he would be doing the things that he's doing at the comfort level that he's doing them and with the enthusiasm, I wouldn't have believed them at all. We all fear, that's what we fear for our child, is how is it going to be when they turn 18 and have to go out into the real world? And not to say that his struggles are over, not to say that there won't be times when he's not treated fairly or not treated well because of his struggle, but there's a lot of reasons that people are not treated fairly, not treated well, and I think our job as parents is to give our kids the foundation to cope with those times, not to try and fix everything and make it so that never happens, because it's going to happen. Regardless of what our child's struggle is, it's really important that we help them build those skills within themselves to get beyond it. So that's kind of an overview of our journey, and as I said, there will be more videos coming on the Voice Unearthed YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about Voice Unearthed, the book is available on Amazon and as an ebook. I also have a Facebook page, Voice Unearthed Facebook page, which has become quite active, which is wonderful. You can meet up with other parents from all over the world who are dealing with this issue. I have a blog site. So I hope you will find all of the information helpful on your journey, and you will connect with others who will be good resources for you and your child. And most importantly, whatever you do, please keep them talking and keep talking fun.